So Bart Kettle with the State of Utah Division of Oil, Gas, and Mining, acting as the Deputy Director of the Oil and Gas Program. One of the first things I want to cover is the critical function of the Oil and Gas Program. And it's a question that I've received multiple times recently, as Director Baza covered with industry and somewhat of a downturn. What is it that the oil and gas staff does when we're not permitting? And so I felt like it was important to cover two items, both the two extremes of industry activity, the exploration phase, and we're seeing a lot of activity in the downturn when companies are determining how to react to dropping commodity price. And so during the exploration phase, the division uses their knowledge and expertise to evaluate the proposals, i.e. permitting, to mitigate potential impacts for industry and the state into the future. And this could be 1, 2, 5, 10, 15 years down the road. The thought is we do the best we can to make the best decisions now to make things better for future generations. During a downturn, the division's critical role is we administer the here and now risks to the state and the industry. And those can come in many forms. They may come in an incident or a spill, they may come in orphan wells, and that's where, as a regulatory agency, the division really steps in, makes sure the state's resources are protected, make sure the industry's integrity is protected so that as things return in the future, there's a political and social environment that allows continued operation. And if there's one takeaway from this slide, I hope that it would be the oil and gas program and the division as a whole provides a valuable product to the industry that we regulate and to the state, regardless of the phase the industry's in. It's really critical to kind of keep that stable regulatory framework in place. So with that said, I want to talk about some of the things the oil and gas program has done in relations to the audit response. And as the board's probably noted, we've tried to come before the board on a regular basis and give you updates on things that we're doing so that we're keeping you apprised of what our situation is. And so we are improving. And what I would point out is the audit was released in November of 2019. The division staff worked really hard to come up with solutions to the challenges we faced through the winter months. But before the legislature did the best job we could to get the items we needed in that process with the support of the board. And then something called COVID-19 hit in March. And it really changed the way work is done across the whole US, actually, across more than the US, all economies. And it affected us some too, but the takeaway I would have is we didn't stall with COVID-19. We actually took a step forward. We made improvements. And I'll show you a couple slides that demonstrate that later in my presentation. So what have we done? We've improved compliance workflow. This includes resolving the outstanding compliance items that were lingering from the past, implementing a workflow process that will prevent that from happening in the future, implementing some technology items that will help us track it and prevent it. And also we're in the process of developing some new items that will continue to automate that process for us and make it more easy to track compliance. We've improved inspection prioritization. As we presented to the board in January, we deployed a program called inspection prioritization. That was an evidence-based model that helped us determine which routine inspections we would do first. I'm going to show you a little bit of data that we've received from that over the last 5 months here in just a moment. Financial management. We've taken steps to try and prioritize our regulatory responsibilities. As we presented to the board in April, we've brought on 5 new positions. Those positions have been very helpful for us. They've started to make a difference immediately. Performance tracking. We're starting to see a few trends on our program. We're getting a few indicators. We're working hard on metrics for our program moving forward. And we've implemented annual employee evaluations per administrative rule, as it's called out in the audit. Bonding, as the board might recall, in February, the division came before the board and gave you a brief synopsis of our bonding situation. We've gone into informal rulemaking. We've got a task force working hard on bonding rules right now. We're looking forward to going out to stakeholders with some of our recommendations here in the near future. So I want to take just a second and talk about inspection prioritization before I show you some of the numbers from it. As you may recall, inspection prioritization is a spatial display shown by the graphic where users just can visually look at things and identify areas of needs, as well as a report that can be pulled for specific situations and manipulated by the end user. Inspection prioritization sorts wells statewide out into 3 priorities. Priority 1, the highest priority wells to visit, depicted by a red dot. Priority 2, the second highest priority wells, depicted by an orange dot. And priority 3, the lowest priority, depicted by a blue dot. I must note here that red doesn't mean bad. Red simply means that an inspection is due at that site, and this would be a well that we would try to visit as soon as we're able to do so. So some of the data that we've received over the last 5 months from inspection prioritization. As you can see, the graph depicts the number of priority 1 wells statewide over that period of time. We started out in February just under 650. By March, that level had risen to 800. We expected that based on our staffing level and based on the dates since last inspection for wells across the state. The surprising part for us was how we were able to flatten the curve of this. And we are starting to decline. And in fact, we're back to just under 650 wells at this point. And we didn't anticipate that. We projected that we would actually have somewhere around 1,000 priority 1 wells at this point. But we've been able to kind of get to those wells quickly. And the takeaway from that would be 2 parts. 1, the 5 staff members that we've brought on starting in March have made a difference. It reflects in the number of priority well ones we have. The second is how staff are able to take this program and make real-time decisions on where to spend their time, and we're seeing the results depicted by the graph. So where do we go next? The oil and gas program has got a contract in place with the Groundwater Protection Council for multiple technology upgrades. Some of those upgrades are going to include data improvements. One of them will include a dashboard. And the way I'd like the board to look at a dashboard is it's the instrument panel the program will use to guide our direction down the long and winding road in the future. We will use the data coming back, similar to the chart I just showed you, to help us make day-to-day decisions as we go forward. So what are the possible challenges for us along the way? Well, obviously, we're facing some industry challenges right now, and the commodity prices have dropped dramatically recently, as Director Baza previously noted. With that becomes the funding challenges we're concerned about. The entire state government system and the state as a whole is worried about funding. We recognize there'll probably be some general fund cuts. The oil and gas program is going to be severely impacted by that, because not only will we face general fund cuts, but we'll face a conservation tax shortage. So that's an item that we're watching really closely. Another item that's a potential source of concern would be lack of support. To this point, we've had fantastic support. We appreciate the support the board has made sure they've given us through this process. We appreciate the support policymakers have given us. The department management has been behind us the whole way, and the division management has helped us greatly. We really appreciate that. We're going to do our best to keep providing updates to the board so they know our status, and so we can continue that open communication and that system of support. So at that point, Mr. Chairman, Director Baza, that concludes my presentation. Is there questions from the board?